Hello, and welcome to the 81st episode of Jazzology, presented by Savage Content. I'm your host, Willard Jenkins, and we're here alternating Saturdays, giving two jazz fans the opportunity to compete for a chance to win $100. Each contestant will be asked questions worth 2 points. If they are unable to answer correctly, their opponent will have a chance to steal the question for 1 point. We'll ask 10 questions, and at the end of the 10 questions, the person with the lowest score will get a bonus question for the opportunity to tie the score, no matter how far they're behind in the score. If they're successful, the game will go to sudden death. The person in the lead at the end of regulation will go first, and each contestant will take turns trying to answer the sudden death multiple choice question until we have a winner. And now let's meet today's contestants. Our reigning champion for this 81st episode of Jazzology is a fellow jazz radio broadcaster, LeRoy Downs, based in Southern California and known as the Jazzcat.
Yes,
LeRoy Downs is a celebrated jazz radio host, producer, curator, and journalist with over 2 decades in the industry. He hosts Just Jazz on KCRW 89.9 FM and curates the Just Jazz concert series, showcasing top-tier talent in venues across Los Angeles. A passionate advocate for jazz as a cultural and emotional force, LeRoy Downs has hosted major events, including the Monterey Jazz Festival. You can see this guy running stages at the Monterey Jazz Festival, the Holloway Bowl Jazz Festival, and the Winter Jazz Fest in New York City, among many others. LeRoy's work in television includes the pilot Hangin with the Jazzcats and collaborations under All Music Television, producing programs like The Jazz Creative and Miles in May. Through interviews, broadcasts, and live shows, LeRoy Downs continues to elevate jazz and foster community through the Just Jazz app and beyond. Welcome, LeRoy.
Thank you.
And our challenger for this 81st episode of Jazzology is Malcolm Stokes. HU in the house.
HU?
Malcolm Stokes is a gifted and in-demand musician, primarily on trumpet. Malcolm is currently a member of 5 bands, 4 of which are based in New York City, and one he co-founded over 12 years ago called the Crush Funk Brass in Washington, D.C. Malcolm also leads 2 ensembles, the Gophers, a fusion group drawing on elements of Black American music, particularly blues and funk, and Maztet, a straight-ahead jazz collective inspired by the great quintets and sextets of the early hard bop era. A California native, now residing in Brooklyn, Malcolm Stokes credits his time in D.C. and at Howard University as vital to his musical development. Malcolm's debut album is set to be released this month in October, and several singles are also already available. You can follow him at Malcolm As Music. At Malcolm As Music on all social media to stay up to date, and stream his music as Malcolm Alfred on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and other platforms. Welcome, Malcolm. And now let's get to today's Jazzology questions. And as reigning champion, LeRoy Downs goes first. You ready, bro?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right, LeRoy. 2 non-Chicagoans, and I emphasize non-Chicagoans, made powerful marks on Chicago's earlier 20th century jazz scene, and eventually on the world. And they were saxophonist Illinois Jazzcat and pianist Earl Father Hines. Though he is Illinois Jazzcat, the great saxophonist band leader was actually from Broussard, Louisiana. So where was Earl Hines, who also made a major impact on the Chicago scene? Where was Earl Hines from? Is Earl Hines, or was Earl Hines from Duquesne, Pennsylvania? From Philadelphia, PA? From Homewood, PA? From Scranton, PA? Or from E, none of the above?
Well, Brother Willard, that is such a good question. We know him as Earl Father Hines, one of the great pianists of our time. Yes, I do not exactly know where the brother is born and raised, but I'm going to take the best educated guess that I can and say, since so many wonderful musicians came from, you know what? I'm going to say none of the above, bro. I'm going to go with that one.
You going to go with E, none of the above?
Yes, sir.
And that, my friends, is incorrect. And Malcolm Stokes with the question. So, Malcolm, we will repeat the question.
Okay.
Two non-Chicagoans made powerful marks on Chicago's earlier 20th century jazz scene, and eventually on the world. Those two non-Chicagoans were saxophonist LeRoy Jazzcat and pianist Earl Father Hines. Though he is Illinois Jazzcat, the great saxophonist band leader was actually from Broussard, Louisiana. So where was Earl Hines from? Was Earl Hines from A, Duquesne, Pennsylvania? B, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania? C, Homewood, Pennsylvania? D, Scranton, Pennsylvania? And E, none of the above has been eliminated. So where was he from, Malcolm?
This is a tough question. So I'm familiar with Earl Father Hines. I'm not sure where he's from, but I do know that Philadelphia had a great jazz scene at the early part of the 20th century. But I don't remember his name coming up with like the cats that are from Philly. So I am gonna guess, and I'm gonna go with A, Duquesne, Pennsylvania, and just hope that that's right.
You took a leap of faith, and you're correct.
Let's go!
Earl Father Hines was indeed from A, Duquesne, Pennsylvania. So you've successfully stolen that point, Malcolm. And now it's your turn, Malcolm. Malcolm Stokes, who is the youngest member of the jazz-playing Marsalis family of New Orleans? Would that be A, Ellis Marsalis III, B, Wynton Marsalis, C, Branford Marsalis, D, Jason Marsalis, or E, Delfeo Marsalis?
This is embarrassing. I should definitely know this. As a trumpet player and somebody that studies Winton, I should know this. I think what I do know, or what I think I know, I believe that Branford is older than Winton. I believe that Delfeo is also older than Winton. So for me, it's either Winton or Jason, I believe is the other one, but I don't think Winton is the baby. So I'm gonna guess again. I'm gonna guess Jason.
And you've guessed correctly again.
Let's go.
Malcolm's batting 1,000. Youngest member of the Jazz Marsalis family of New Orleans is D, Jason Marsalis, the drummer and vibraphonist. All right, LeRoy, time to play the catch up.
I'm ready, man.
All right. LeRoy, which of the following jazz players, nicknamed Bud, in addition to his primary saxophone mastery, was an exceptional clarinetist, highly in demand for recording sessions for his mastery? Would that be A, Bud Shank. B, Buddy Collette. C, Bud Johnson. D, Bud Freeman. Or E, Bud Scott.
All the buds of the music.
Buds.
Well, here in Los Angeles, man, one of our heroes was a great Buddy Collette, and I know it's not him. But who I do know it is, I do believe is Brother Bud Shank.
That is incorrect.
Oh.
Malcolm with an opportunity to steal the point. Malcolm, which of the following jazz players nicknamed Bud, in addition to his primary saxophone mastery, was an exceptional clarinetist who was highly in demand for recording sessions for his clarinet mastery? Would that have been A, Bud Shank, and his name has been eliminated? B, Buddy Collette. C, Bud Johnson. D, Bud Freeman. Or E, Bud Scott?
I'm just going to go ahead and go with Bud Johnson.
We got some educated guesses going on here because you are correct. C, Bud Johnson. All right.
Oh, my goodness.
Malcolm, you're up next. Malcolm, there have been a number of jazz musicians who married women prominent in the performing arts. Which of the following jazz musicians was married to the actress Sandy Dennis, who starred in films such as Splendor in the Grass and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? The jazz artist married to Sandy Dennis at one point would that be A, Red Norvo, B, Ray Brown, C, Artie Shaw, D, Louis Bellson, or E, Jerry Mulligan?
I just have a suspicion that stars and actresses go together, so I'm going to go with D.
You going to go with who? D? Louis Bellson?
Oh, D. Louis Bellson, yes.
And that is incorrect. LeRoy with an opportunity to steal the point. LeRoy, LeRoy. My bad.
Yes.
LeRoy, my bad. LeRoy, there have been a number of jazz musicians who married women prominent in the performing arts. Which of the following jazz musicians was once married to the actress Sandy Dennis, who starred in films such as Splendor in the Grass and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Would that be A, Red Norvo, B, Ray Brown, C, Artie Shaw, and D, Louis Bellson has been eliminated, or E, Jerry Mulligan?
Good question. Yeah, well, since we've eliminated Brother Louis Bellson, we also going to eliminate Brother Ray Brown, because we know who Ray was married to, at least for a short period of time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't ever remember seeing any of these musicians getting high profile with a star actress. But my educated guess, taken from Brother Malcolm, I'm going to throw my 3 up too, and that would be Red Norvo.
That is incorrect. The correct answer to that question is E, Jerry Mulligan.
Wouldn't have thought that.
So LeRoy, you're up next.
All right. I've been in this position before. I'm just letting you know, brother. I've been here. So.
And caught up at the end, right?
Yes, sir.
LeRoy, who was the original drummer in the Modern Jazz Quartet, also known as the MJQ? Was the original drummer in the MJQ A, Max Roach, B, Roy Haynes, C. Kenny Clark, D. Denzel Best, or E. Connie Kay?
All great drummers, of course. A lot of them very prominently known. Brother Max Roach was like one of my favorite drummers, man. He and Abby did so much for the music. And so did Brother Roy Haynes. I think Roy Haynes is still with us, man. He's like either 94 or I believe he's still here with us, man. And one of the sharpest cats in the business. We love that cat. But I'm going to go with Kenny Clark, C.
C. Kenny Clark?
Yes, sir.
And you are correct. Time for our mid-show break with the score of Malcolm 4 and LeRoy 2. This week, we are spotlighting No Regrets, the music and spirit of Billie Holiday, an in-depth 13-episode radio and live streaming documentary series celebrating Billie Holiday's extraordinary musical legacy from the standpoint of her artistry. The program explores her early life, Billie's groundbreaking singing style, and the powerful impact her rendition of Strange Fruit had on the civil rights movement. Produced by award-winning Steve Robinson and written by yours truly, No Regrets is narrated by Rhonda Hamilton. The series features interviews with Angela Davis, Cassandra Wilson, Beth Roars, Andromeda Toure, Diane Reeves, Phil Schaap, Dee Dee Bridgewater, Dan Morgenstern, Renee Marie, and many others. All episodes of No Regrets, the music and spirit of Billie Holiday, are available to free stream and can be accessed at savagecontent.com. And for this episode of Jazzology, I want to put the spotlight on a wonderful book that I just completed, and that is this book. It's called Oceans of Time, and it's a musical autobiography of the great NEA jazz master drummer Billy Hart, and as told to his pianist, his regular band pianist, Ethan Iverson. It's a wonderful book. Again, it's called Oceans of Time. And now for our usual mid-show questions. Malcolm, since it's your first time up in Jazzology, tell us briefly, how did you fall in love with jazz?
Yeah, I fell in love with jazz in kind of a roundabout way. So growing up in Sacramento, California, all my friends listened to West Coast rap. It was Snoop, it was Dr. Dre, but I played in the high school jazz band all throughout high school. So I was playing the songs of the big band era swing, but I didn't listen to it. But I was always around jazz because my uncle started the Long Beach Jazz Festival in Long Beach, Southern California. And so I was at the feet of Hugh Masekela, Marcus Miller, a lot of the jazz greats of the late 80s, early 90s. And so I really relished the feeling of being around people that I just thought were cool, and the music was fine. It didn't really draw me in at that age. But as I started at Howard as a music major, a lot of my friends were playing transcriptions of Clifford Brown and Lee Morgan and all these great people. Cannonball Adderley, my saxophone improv teacher, he loved Cannonball Adderley, so we learned a lot of those tunes, a lot of Nancy Wilson, Sarah Vaughan, and so that's when I really developed a love for the language and for the culture of jazz, I would say, as a freshman at Howard. Yeah.
All right. HU in the house once again.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Laura, you've already answered. You responded to that question in the previous episode. Yeah. So tell us what's up next. What's happening with Just Jazz?
Oh, man. Well, we are doing some things up in the Monterey area. We started a festival called Future Is Now, which really focuses on all of the young musicians, folks that won't be necessarily playing at the Monterey Jazz Festival, but it's a festival that features all these young players. You know, they're so young, they don't get a chance to go to jazz clubs and see all of these things. And they're just starting out in their careers, and they're working, and they're very talented. And so, we recognize that talent, and we think that there should be a spot for young musicians. So we're focusing on that. Musicians under 40 is kind of what we're focusing on. And we've had our first festival last July there in Monterey, which was fantastic. So we're just working on getting some sponsorship and some funding, which is not an easy thing to do, and putting it together again. We like to do a summer and a winter festival every year there in Monterey. It's exciting for young musicians to hop in the car with their cats and going up to Monterey and play not the Monterey Jazz Festival. It's the Future Is Now Jazz Festival. And, we just want to hold up and spotlight a lot of our young unknown musicians, because, the next day they're going to be the ones.
So where can folks find out more about that festival?
You can check out all the information on our website. It's justjazz.tv. And as I mentioned, we already had the festival, and we're working on, getting it all together. When you do something like that on your own, of course, you lose a ton of money, and we're not trying to do that again. So, hop on over to justjazz.tv. If this is something you're interested in, you could certainly throw some donations our way and support and sponsor justjazz.tv to guarantee that these type of things will happen in the future.
All righty. Well, back to the questions we go, and Malcolm is up next. You ready, Malcolm?
Yes, sir.
All right, Malcolm, which of the following John Coltrane albums was made in 1958? Would that have been A, John Coltrane's album Two Tenors, B, Bahia, C, Giant Steps, D, Blue Train, or E, Ole? Which of those albums was made in 1958?
Yeah, this is a frustrating one. Is there an option to phone a friend?
That is not an option.
I would call my good friend Dr. Reggie Bowens. He just got his doctorate, and he did a lot of studying on John Coltrane. He had a whole course on John Coltrane, so I know he would know this. I would imagine that Two Tenors. I don't know about Two Tenors. I think Bahia was later, if I had to guess. I think Giant Steps. I want to say Giant Steps because I think that's probably the biggest album out of these. But Blue Train is my favorite album. I played that a lot when I was in college. So I'm just going to go with my favorite and hope that it's right. Let's do Blue Train. D, Blue Train.
That is incorrect. So LeRoy with an opportunity to steal the question, to steal the point. LeRoy, which of the following John Coltrane albums was made in 1958? Was that A, Two Tenors, B, Bahia, C, Giant Steps, D, Blue Train has been eliminated, or E, Ole?
Well, as you know, this is a great question. I think about, the year 1958, and you think about Train when he was playing with Miles when he was younger and all of that, and it took a minute before he broke out on his own. So and you think about these albums, Ole and Bahia and Two Tenors. You got to think, what's his first project going to be after leaving, the Coltrane band? As these people, as the years go by, they develop their skills and time and thought in terms of who they're going to be and what they're going to do next. And I don't think Ole was an album that he would do like next, or Blue Train. or Bahia or Two Tenors. I think those are all extraordinary albums, but it kind of sounds like with him working with the record label at the time and breaking out on his own and trying to do, you know, the next thing that's going to be popular, my guess would be Giant Steps.
That is incorrect. The correct answer is B, Bahia.
Oh my goodness.
It was Bahia that he made in 1958. So LeRoy, you're up next.
Okay.
When you playing catch up.
Yep, I am.
LeRoy, of the following albums declared by Downbeat Magazine as the best albums of 2024, which of these artists recorded their album live at Birdland? Would that have been A, Jerry Allen and Kurt Rosenwinkel, B, Julian Lage, C, Jeffrey Keyser, D, Charles Lloyd, or E, Vijay Iyer?
All great and wonderful players. Of course, we're going to do this by deductive logic as well. It wouldn't be Charles Lloyd. Charles Lloyd is now on the Blue Note Jazz label, and he didn't put out a live recording. Jerry Allen and Kurt Rosenwinkel, I don't even recall an album with those two together, and it would have been 2024 since, you know, our dear Jerry is dearly departed. And I think it's been a little longer than a year. Vijay Iyer, that's my main man. I don't ever recall him recording an album at Birdland, which leaves me with, you know, two of my other cats, Keys and Brother Lage. And I don't know which one of those recorded an album at Birdland. But since we're talking about 2024, I think the latest album that came out between those two would have been Julian Lage. So that's my answer, B, Julian Lage.
And that is incorrect. Malcolm has an opportunity now to steal the point. Of the following albums declared by Downbeat Magazine as the best albums of 2024, which of these artists recorded their album live at Birdland? Would that have been A, Jerry Allen and Kurt Rosenwinkel? And just a note to inform our viewers that Jerry Allen and Kurt Rosenwinkel recording did come out in 2024. It was a posthumous release in the case of Dear Jerry, but it did come out in 2024. B, Julian Lage has been eliminated. C, Jeffrey Keyser, D, Charles Lloyd, or E, Vijay Iyer?
All right. I'm going to use the process of elimination for this one as well. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and lean on my Howard roots. Jerry Allen is one of the shining, you know, stars that came out of Howard's music program. I actually never had the chance to meet her, but I've listened to a lot of her recordings, and so I'm just going to hop out on faith and hope that when her album came out in 2024, it was, you know, one of those ones. So I'm going to go with A, Jerry Allen and Kurt.
That is incorrect as well. The Jerry Allen, Kurt Rosenwinkel album did indeed come out in 2024, posthumously in Jerry's case, but it was not recorded live at Birdland. The artist who did record live at Birdland for a 2024 release was C, Jeffrey Keyser.
Our boy Keys.
So Malcolm, you're up next. The score is Malcolm 4 and LeRoy 2. Malcolm, your turn next. Which of the following albums, cited by Downbeat Magazine as among the best albums of 2024, was recorded by NEA Jazz master, saxophonist, and flutist Charles Lloyd? Was it A, Triptych, B, Compassion. C, Speak to Me. D, The Sky Will Be There Tomorrow. Or E, The Memphis Blues Box.
And I'm really wishing I would have opened up some of my downbeat magazines I got last year. They're just sitting on my table. I haven't heard of any of these albums except Triptych. I've heard of that. I'm not sure who it's by, but I've been kind of digging into the blues myself quite a bit more lately. So I'm gonna go with E, the Memphis Blues Box.
That is incorrect. LeRoy with the chance to steal the question.
Oh.
Which of the following albums, cited by Downbeat Magazine as among the best albums of 2024, was recorded by NEA Jazz Master saxophonist and flutist Charles Lloyd? Would that be A, Triptych, B, Compassion, C, Speak to Me, D, The Sky Will Be There Tomorrow, and E, The Memphis Blues Box has been eliminated?
So interesting, because I just connected with Charles and Dorothy just a few days ago. I'll be doing an interview with Charles Lloyd next week.
Oh, great.
And they asked me, did you get the new album? I'm like, yeah, I got it, but I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. So, and it's true, I still haven't had a chance to dig in. But yes, out of all of these albums, and I don't know the latest title of that 2024 one, but I do believe it is The Sky Will Be There Tomorrow.
And that is correct. Charles Lloyd's album, The Sky Will Be There Tomorrow, for the Blue Note label, was indeed one of Downbeat Magazine's best albums of 2024.
Yeah, I was going to get in big trouble if I didn't get it.
So, LeRoy, you're up next.
All right, sir.
LeRoy, trombone master Steve Toure's 2024 release, Sanyas, was released by which of the following record labels? Was Steve Toure's 2024 release, Sanyas, released by A, Blue Note, B, Concord Jazz, C, Impulse, D, Verve, or E, Smoke Sessions? Which of those labels released that album?
Well, of course, being getting all of these albums and knowing all of these labels very, very well, what happens when I get an album is I get it, I rip it, and I look at the digital. And usually on all of the metadata that comes with all of those albums, they never put the label. So this is going to be a fairly educated guess. I'm not going to cross the ones I think out, because then I'll be, just kind of handing the plate to my brother, which happens every time. So I hope you're eating well off of that, man.
I appreciate it.
but as a visual in my mind, I don't see the cover of Steve Toure, but just thinking about him and what albums or what labels he would be associated with, there's a couple of them here that I think I would choose. But I'm gonna go ahead and choose the Smoke Sessions.
That is correct. That is correct. Steve Toure's 2024 Sanyas was released by the Smoke Sessions label. And LeRoy is up a point. So Malcolm, your opportunity to catch up is up next.
All right.
Malcolm, which of the following not-for-profit jazz presenters is located in Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I might add. Be A, Jazz Forum Arts. B, Outpost Productions. C, Manchester Craftsmen's Guild. D, Earshot Jazz. Or E, none of the above. Which of those organizations operates out of Pittsburgh?
Man, I have no idea on this. These are tough. These are good questions, but they are tough. Okay, Manchester. I am going to say. Oh man, I'm trying to think through. Jazz Forum Arts seems like it could be it. I'm kind of between A and B, Jazz Forum Arts or Outpost Productions. But I'm leaning a little more towards A. I'm going to go ahead and go with A, Jazz Forum Arts.
That is incorrect. Jazz Forum Arts is actually located in New York State.
Oh.
So LeRoy with an opportunity to steal the point. LeRoy, which of, and you are a jazz presenter, so you ought to know this one. Which of the following not-for-profit jazz presenters is located in Pittsburgh? A, Jazz Forum Arts has been eliminated. So would that be B, Outpost Productions, C, Manchester Craftsmen's Guild, D, Earshot Jazz, or E, none of the above?
Well, as you mentioned, yes, I am a jazz presenter, but I think what happens with jazz presenters, man, is you just kind of focus on what you're trying to do. You know, you're not really
little tunnel vision, huh?
Yeah, the tunnel. I'm like, yo, we got to do this. We got to do this. So I'm not necessarily looking what they doing or what they're doing. You know, we're just trying to do our thing. And many of these I have not heard of before. And, you know, no disrespect to them. I'm sure they're killing it too, especially not necessarily knowing where they're located. But since, you know, I haven't heard of these before, you've heard of Jazz Forums, as you just said, they come out of New York City. I will have to take my stab at it again. And since I know Earshot more like a jazz festival, is that supposed to still be presented as a presenter? But like, I know I've heard of that, but I don't know exactly where it comes from.
Okay.
So my guess is either going to be D or E, because I'm not sure. So since I've heard of Earshot, I'm going to go ahead and say Earshot.
That is incorrect as well.
Yeah.
B, Outpost Productions. No, hold on. I'm not done. B, Outpost Productions is located in Albuquerque, New Mexico. D, Earshot Jazz is in Seattle, Washington. The correct answer is C, Manchester Craftsmen's Guild in Pittsburgh. Yeah. And when you're in the jazz presenting business, you got to pay attention to what your peers are doing, LeRoy. You got to pay attention. I'm telling you.
All right. I got to open up a little bit.
It's called networking.
Yes.
LeRoy is up 5 points to Malcolm's 4. So in the Jazzology tradition, our bonus round is up next, where Malcolm can catch up immediately by answering the bonus round question correctly. So here you go, Malcolm. Which of the following jazz greats appeared on the cover of Time magazine first? Would that have been A, Billie Holiday, B, Louis Armstrong, C, Dave Brubeck, D, Duke Ellington, or E, Thelonious Monk?
I really hope it's the person that I say, obviously, but as a trumpet player, I would really hope, and just as far as like his influence in jazz and the timing of it, I think Louis Armstrong was probably born before most of the people that are on this list. I'm not sure when Time came out, but I think he also definitely had the biggest international influence. Of these artists, maybe, yeah. I would say maybe Duke is like a close second, but I think Lewis had the biggest influence globally at the time. So if America was worth its weight in salt and putting icons on the front of Time magazine, I'm gonna double down with my trumpet and say Louis for the win. Let's go.
And that is correct.
Woo.
Malcolm has tied the score. So we are now in our sudden death round. As LeRoy was in the lead before we got to our bonus question, LeRoy will go first on our sudden death question. So LeRoy, which of the following tenor saxophone masters grew up in St. Joseph, Missouri? Would that have been A, Lester Young, B, Stan Getz, C, Ben Webster, D, Coleman Hawkins, or E, Gene Ammons?
Well, when I think about these saxophone greats, I look at these names and I can hear a certain sound from each of them. Now, me matching that sound with that particular region of the country that they came from is kind of a tricky situation. I'm picturing the musicians and, how they all got to New York, where they come from, which trains did they travel? And as I think about Missouri, and I'm looking at these names, it's going to be a stab in the dark, but I'm going to go with A, Lester Young.
That is incorrect. And Malcolm, it's your turn. Malcolm, which of the following tenor saxophone masters grew up in St. Joseph, Missouri? A, Lester Young has been eliminated. So it'd have to be B, Stan Getz, C, Ben Webster, D, Coleman Hawkins, or E, Gene Ammons?
Again, you guys are just coming up with the hardest questions I've ever heard. I'm similar to what LeRoy said. I do admire all these great tenor saxophonists, and I do like have an inkling of what each of their individual sound is like. I think kind of just for me going off of maybe lineage, I think that Coleman Hawkins was one of the first to record my favorite jazz ballad, Body and Soul. And so his sound out of these is the one that I'm most familiar with, that I actually like the most. My favorite tenor saxophonist is Benny Golson. But out of these, I'm going to go with the Hawk, I think is what they called him back in the day. Coleman Hawkins. I'm going to go with D, Coleman Hawkins.
And that is correct. Coleman Hawkins was indeed from St. Joseph, Missouri. And that means that Malcolm Stokes is our winner. Congratulations to Malcolm Stokes on winning our 81st episode of Jazzology. We encourage everyone to try your hand to play Jazzology. If you or anyone you know would like to become a contestant on Jazzology, simply click on the link and fill out the form. You must be 18 years old or older, and be sure to follow us on social media at Jazzology Trivia Show to get all the latest news and updates. Many thanks to LeRoy Downs.
You got me, brother. You got me.
That was
Malcolm,
all luck.
and to everyone who joined us for our 81st episode of Jazzology. Remember, you can check out Jazzology every other Saturday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you missed the show live, you can find the archive on the Savage Content YouTube channel. Until next time, peace.
Peace.
Y'all.